looking.
I've been looking, searching, trying to find the right way to walk. Stay beside me, guide me, and try me. I wanna walk in your light.
I've been looking,
searching, trying to find the right way to walk.
The Lord is my light, my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. And whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even my enemy, my faith and trust I put all in thee. Believe you got the world in your hand. You bless me, Lord, I know I can stand.
Show me the way, Lord.
I will be faithful, for I am desolate and afflicted. Lord, show me the way.
I want to say also to the rest of the people that are watching us live on the internet, it is good to stand before you on the Lord's Day. We're going to get right into this lesson, sisters and brothers, because, you look at church. People go to church all the time, and everybody's praising God. But I noticed that something was always left out. And that is the law of God. People tell us, it's been saying, well, you can't keep that law. God knows you can't keep that law. And I asked the question, if God knew we couldn't keep the law, why would he give it to us? It would look like to me that my God is setting me up for failure so we can do what? So we can destroy me. Something wrong with that, sisters and brothers. But we're going to have a look at this, because when people look at God's commandments, this is laws, and when you deal with them, they make you feel like you're doing something wrong. And they'll tell you you're a legalist and try and make you feel bad because you said you should keep the commandments. But then you turn around and you'll call me a sinner, but you don't keep the commandments. So the question I have to ask is, what are you? But I come to the conclusion, sisters and brothers, that people simply don't understand because people have not been taught. And why haven't the people been taught? Because, sisters and brothers, when they destroyed Jerusalem in 70 A.D., all of the teachers were scattered. Israel had lost focus, and those that end up on the European part of the Mediterranean ended up in places that eventually come down to the days of France. And they was really pressured not to teach this word. In fact, that's what the Inquisition was all about, to exterminate the teaching of the original Christian, which were Hebrew Israelites. And this is where the world has gone bad. So now, when you look at the Hebrew Israelite Christianity, which is written in the Bible, as opposed to the Christian Christianity, Roman Christian Christianity, which is not written in the Bible, being that people have been taught this Roman Christianity so long until everything that God said is wrong. Even when you read it. And they make God a vain God. He do stuff that he know that he didn't want you to do. I guess he's just doing it because that day he didn't have nothing else to do. But we're going to examine this, sisters and brothers. That's why the Lord called me to put together this lesson, the law, spiritual and holy. How can you kill something that's spiritual and holy, sisters and brothers? You can't change it. And God is a majority. Just because you got a whole world hollering the law ain't no more and you don't have to keep it, that don't mean that the world's going to get away with it.
Right.
Because God, this thing was so important to God until he didn't send this to us by the hand of an angel. He brought this himself. Now let's start this in Exodus, the 19th chapter. Because there's one thing I noticed. I said, God started this thing off with a message directly from him. He dealt directly with Israel before he turned Israel over to an angel, sisters and brothers. Because he wanted us to get this thing right. He gave it to Israel, his ministers. And nowadays, the people that Israel is supposed to teach have become the teachers. Now, when the student becomes the teacher, the whole education system is messed up.
That's right.
Everybody is uninformed. And that's why we have now a world that's uninformed. And it's been so embedded in us until we can't see it even if somebody read it to you. But nevertheless, we're going to read it to you. Now, this is a message that the Lord wanted himself. Now, God wanted to give himself. We're going to start at Exodus 19th chapter and verse 1. 19 and 1. Okay, go ahead.
In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim, and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness. And there Israel camped before the mount.
Now, they had been traveling for 3 months, but then they finally camped at the mount, which is Sinai, because God had a message for them. So skip down to verse 9. Verse 9, and go ahead.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever.
Go ahead.
And Moses told the words of the people unto the Lord.
Now, the Lord is telling Moses, look, I'm going to come. I want to speak to you. I want these people to hear my voice. So they will know that you're not making this up yourself, even though you've done a lot of things that Moses couldn't do. He says, so they will believe you and fear me forever. They wanted, God wanted to fix it and make it easy so you could believe him. How are you going to do that? I'm going to bring this message myself. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Go unto the people, and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes, and be ready against the 3rd day.
Go ahead.
For the 3rd day the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai.
He said, I want you to go and make them wash their clothes. I want them to come clean when they come to me. Because I'm going to come down 3 days from now in the sight of all of these people. Because I got a message for them. Skip down to verse 14. Verse 14 and go ahead.
And Moses went down from the mountain to the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes.
Now he got them ready. Skip down to verse 17 and go ahead.
And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God. And they stood at the nether part of the mount.
Now can no other nation make this claim but Israel? Israel is the only nation that came out and met with God. Because God had something he wanted to give us, and he had a job that he wanted us to do, so he started this off himself. So Moses brought the people out to meet with God. Go ahead and read.
18. And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace.
Go ahead.
And the whole mount quaked greatly. And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long, and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice.
So now when the Lord come down and his feet at that mountain, it's going to be just like it did when it's going to be when he come together. So it was all together on the smoke, sisters and brothers, and the earthquake, and then it said the trumpets got louder and louder. That's what people don't understand. When the Lord come, the trumpets always are blown. That's why in the 7th chapter of Revelation, before the coming of the Lord, 7 trumpets are going to be blown. Letting you know, here come God. And so when Moses spoke, the Lord answered him by voice. And then the Lord, let me show you what the Lord said then. Let's go directly into the 20th chapter of Revelation, and we're going to read it. Now, this is God talking here. All Israel is listening to this conversation. Exodus 20, and we're going to start reading at verse 1. This is what I marveled at. I said, look, God actually spoke face to face to the whole nation of Israel. Can't no other nation make that claim. No matter what you do, how powerful you are, or how much money you have, how rich the nation is, only Israel can claim that we stood as a nation and the Lord spoke directly to us. Remember, he brought this to us. That means that we're the one have to keep this thing straight. Verse 1, go ahead and read.
And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Now, the first thing to let you know, I don't want you having no more gods before. I'm the one that brought you out of Egypt. I don't want you to have no other God before me. Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them.
Go ahead.
Nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me.
Now, the next thing he told you, I don't want you to make images of anything that's in heaven, under the heaven, under the water, or anything else, and bow down to it. In other words, don't make no kind of little gods and say this is God. And most of the churches in the Western Hemisphere come out of the church that's got so many images until you can't hardly walk on the floor. And they say they represent God. That tells me that nobody's read the commandments. You got a statue here. You got one over there with wings. You got a baby over there with something looking down and crying. You got a little old man with a bald head. Statues everywhere. And the ones that come out of her, they got the image in their mind.
That's right.
But God said, I don't want you to do this.
That's right.
And bow down to it? Go ahead and read.
6. And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me.
He said, look, I don't want you doing this. Ain't nobody going to get away with this. Anybody guilty is not going to be freed. But those that do the right thing, I'm going to show them mercy. Go ahead and read.
And keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain.
No, he said, look, I'm showing mercy to all the generations that keep my commandments. He said, I do not want you to take the name of the Lord your God in vain. I just don't want you using, GD and all that kind of stuff. You got some people always, the Lord this and the Lord that and the Lord this. And if you ask them, well, where did you read that at? They can't say it. That's using it for nothing. That's what vain means, for nothing. When you use the name of God, that means his name, that means you have to have something on your mind.
That's right.
He said, anybody that uses his name in vain, they're going to be guilty. What verse was that?
That was the end of 7.
Now, once he got through telling you how to handle him, he went to the next most important thing to him. And read that. Go ahead and read.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Now, how can you fix it so somebody don't remember the Sabbath day? Change it. That same church that gave you all the statutes that the Lord said he don't want you to have, lied and said Jesus died on Good Friday and he rose Easter Sunday morning. Therefore, Sunday is the Christian Sabbath day. It might be the Christian Sabbath day, but the Roman Christian Sabbath day. Not the Hebrew Israelite Christian Sabbath.
That's right.
This is important to God. That's why he put it right here.
That's right.
After he got through telling you how to handle him. Go ahead and read.
6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work.
Go ahead.
Thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates.
He said, now, this is 7 days I made the earth. Even the 7th day, sisters and brothers, with the Sabbath, that is still a day that we're going to have to deal with. It's called the millennium period. He said, but I want you to do this. I don't want you to do no work in this day. Even if you have a business, I just let some people that have business, well, see, my worker is non-believers, so I let them run the business. But the book said, now thy son, now thy daughter, now thy son, manservant, now thy maidservant. Pretty clear to me, isn't that right?
It's pretty clear to me.
Go ahead and read.
For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the 7th day.
Go ahead.
Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
Now, this is the only day he say blessed and he hallowed. People say, well, you know, every day is the Sabbath day to me. I said, then why are you going to work? Because the Lord said, don't do no work on that day. So you're going to get pretty hungry, ain't you? So the Lord said, I want you to keep this.
That's right.
Look, sisters and brothers, they do everything on the 7th day of the week. This day, Saturday. Don't you know most of the people, most of the Christians have all the funerals of their dead folks, most of them on the Sabbath day? That's not keeping it holy.
No, it's not.
And then when you don't go, they figure, what's wrong with you? Okay. Go ahead and read what verse?
That was in the 11th.
Go ahead.
Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee.
Now, that's a warning to people. Honor your father and your mother. He didn't put no addendum on there, like if they honor you or if they love you. If they don't honor you, that is on them. It is on you that your days might be long. You get a lot of disrespectful and abusive children to their parents. They don't live long. And people wonder why. Why is they gone? So because the Lord didn't put the fix on you. He said that your days may be long on this earth.
That's right.
Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt not kill.
Thou shalt not kill. Jesus explained that thou shalt not commit murder. You understand? If it was thou shalt not kill absolute, that means you can't kill no animals. But Jesus said thou shalt not commit murder. Thou shalt not kill. Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
Thou shalt not commit adultery. You don't be sleeping around with people's spouses. You understand? Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt not steal.
And thou shalt not steal.
Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor.
And you shall not bear false witness against thy neighbor. I want to read all of this, sisters and brothers. Because when I read this, I don't see nothing wrong with this.
I don't either.
In fact, if everybody adhered to this world would be a utopia.
That's right.
Go ahead and read.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's.
Now, what's this covet? You want what your neighbor has. You don't have it, now you're jealous. And the first jealous person in the Bible killed his own brother.
That's right.
There are severe consequences that come with jealousy and coveting, sisters and brothers. If your neighbor is blessed, thank God that he's blessed. You might ask him, man, what'd you do to get that? He might tell you, well, you know, I serve God and keep the commandment. Then, well, I'm going to do it too. But that's where you go with that, sisters and brothers. Have nothing against your neighbor. Who are your neighbor? Anybody that come out of Adam and Eve. Go ahead and read.
And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off.
Now but the Lord held them there until he got through saying what he wanted to say. And believe me, these commandments cover everything. Go ahead and read.
And they said unto Moses, speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die. And Moses said unto the people, Fear not, for God is come to prove you, and that his fear may be before your faces, that ye sin not.
First thing is, man run away from God. God didn't run away from man. Man said, I don't want to talk to God no more. God didn't say he didn't want to talk to us no more.
That's right.
But Moses told him, don't fear. God came to prove you. He came to prove you so you will keep his commandments. Let you know I'm here, and I'm going to be here with every generation. So if you don't listen to me, I got something for you. Go ahead and read.
And the people stood afar off, and Moses drew near into the thick darkness where God was.
And that's enough. So the Lord came. So when he drew near to the thick darkness, why? Because the God called him up. Let's go into Exodus, the 24th chapter. Exodus 24, and we're going to read one verse, verse 12. Exodus 24 and verse 12. Okay, read it.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Come up to me into the mount, and be there. And I will give thee tables of stone and a law and commandments which I have written, that thou mayest teach them.
Now, not only did he give them to him face to face, he wrote them himself. So it can't be no typo on this.
That's right.
This is so important that I want you to come up here, and I'm going to write these things while you are in my presence. And Moses went up there. Now let's go into Exodus, the 31st chapter. I'm just showing you how particular the Lord was about this. And then some man going to tell me he didn't intend for me to do this? I have to take issue with that. Exodus 31, Exodus chapter 31, and we're going to read one verse. Verse 18. Last verse, verse 18. Go ahead.
And he gave unto Moses, when he had made an end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of God.
Now, once he got through, he had wrote these commandments with his own finger. The same commandments that he spoke out of his mouth. Because it was important to him, that's why he brought it himself. But let's show you what happened while Moses was up there getting them commandments. Let's go into 32. Exodus chapter 32. Exodus chapter 32. And we're going to start reading at verse 1. Because, sisters and brothers, the Lord don't leave no room for interpretation. He tell you exactly what he wants you to know. And if you stand before him, if you don't make the first resurrection, you ain't no need of you trying to lie to him.
That's right.
He's going to point it out to you book and verse. How do I know? Because he said that everyone's going to be judged out of the thing that is written in the books. What book? This book. 32 and 1. Go ahead and read.
And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what has become of him.
Ain't that something? He was up there getting the 10 commandments that God had spoke to the whole nation. And while Moses was getting them written down, the Lord was writing them down, they did exactly what the Lord told them not to do. Don't make no graven images.
That's right.
And you're wondering why we have been treated so bad. Once you understand how unruly and misbehaving our parents were, that tell you that God is merciful. Because if you had been in this place, you'd have killed us. But it's Moses, like he's some passerby. We don't know what happened to him. Now, Aaron, the high priest, he was supposed to say, no, you get out of my face with this foolishness.
That's what he's supposed to do.
But what did the priest do? Go ahead and read.
And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings which are on the ears of your wives, of your sons, and of your daughters, and bring them unto me.
Uh-huh.
And all the people brake off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron.
Go ahead.
And he received them at their hand, and fashioned it with the graving tool, after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt.
Now, when I wrote this, when I read this, sisters and brothers, then I said, look, I can see why that people nowadays believe any kind of garbage in the name of Jesus. Because if you can take earrings out of your ear and take them to a guy and he make a calf out of it and stand it before you and said, These be the gods, O Israel, that brought you out of Egypt, and you go for it, you are sure enough brain dead.
That's right.
So I can see why we follow any doctrine on the planet.
That's so
because
true.
you can't get no worse than this.
I'm telling you.
How can he brought you out, bring the one that brought you out of Egypt and he was in your ear? In little pieces.
That's right.
Go ahead and read.
And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it.
Uh-huh.
And Aaron made proclamation and said, Tomorrow is a feast to the Lord.
That's why Moses told Aaron, God was going to kill you, partner. I had to pray for you. That's why Moses is the intercessor, not Aaron.
That's right.
That's why Moses was the real high priest, not Aaron. Both of them was Levites. Aaron was the oldest, but Moses was the one that served God.
That's right.
Go ahead and read.
And they rose up early on the morrow and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink and rose up to play.
So that's the kind of God Israel like, one that don't require no responsibility. No matter what you do, there are no reprisals. No matter how evil you get, there's no payback. We like that kind of God. But we didn't choose him. He chose us. So we got him whether we want him or not. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Go, get thee down, for that people which thou broughtest up out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves.
God didn't even want to own the fact that he brought them out. Almost them people that you brought out of Egypt. They have quickly corrupted themselves. I mean, the man was gone for just 40 days.
That's it.
Come down to verse 15. Because Moses tried to say, no, he said, get on down there, Moses. First we told Moses, I'm going to kill all these people. Moses had to do some big time plea. Verse 15, to keep him from killing them all. Go ahead and read.
And Moses turned and went down from the mount, and the two tables of the testimony were in his hand.
Uh-huh.
The tables were written on both their sides, and on the one side and on the other were they written.
Go ahead.
And the tables were the work of God, and the writing was the writing of God, graving upon the tables.
So God wrote these commandments himself, and he wrote them on a stone to tell you, no, these ain't going to change. You can't put no eraser on stuff that's written in the stone. Go ahead and read.
And when Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said unto Moses, There is a noise of war in the camp.
See, Joshua went so far up the mountain, and then he had to stop. So now he was waiting on Moses to come down, so that lets you Joshua was faithful too, wasn't it?
That's right.
Just like Moses was up there 40 years, he was down there somewhere on the mountain 40 years waiting. Probably didn't eat a drink anyway.
40 days.
40 years, 40 days rather. So that means that Joshua was there for 40 days too, neither eating and drinking. So when the Lord passed it over to a person, he put it in one that the faithful is the one that died, which was Joshua.
That's right.
These things I pay attention to. Go ahead and read.
And he said, It is not the voice of them that shout for mastery, neither is it the voice of them that cry for being overcome.
Go ahead.
But the noise of them that sing do I hear.
Uh-huh.
And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh to the camp, that he saw the calf and the dancing, and Moses' anger waxed hot, and he cast the tables out of his hands and brake them beneath the mount.
Oh, you know, men of God ain't supposed to get mad.
Yeah.
What do you think anger is?
Right.
And if it waxed hot, he was real mad.
That's right.
He was so mad, before he knew it, he threw them stones out of his hand. Then he did a few other things too, but we're not going to concern ourselves with that. Let's see what God did concerning them stones that he had in his hand with the commandments written on them that the Lord had written. So let's go into Exodus, the 34th chapter. Exodus chapter 34. Moses had to do something. He ground that calf to powder, threw it in the water, then made the people drink the water. Then he got the Levites together and they killed so many of them. Then once he did his part, he went back and pleaded with God, sisters and brothers. God forgave him for that time. However, God told Moses, come on back up here. 34:1. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and I will write upon these tables the words that were in the first tables, which thou breakest.
Now I want you to hew you out 2 more stones, and come on up. I'm going to give you the same thing. Go ahead and read.
And be ready in the morning, and come up in the morning unto Mount Sinai.
Go ahead.
And present thyself there to me in the top of the mount.
So you come on back like you was before. And I want you to present yourself before me. Skip down to verse 4 and go ahead.
And he hewed 2 tables of stone like unto the first. And Moses rose up early in the morning and went up into Mount Sinai as the Lord had commanded him. And took in his hand the 2 tables of stone.
Go ahead.
And the Lord descended in the cloud and stood with him there and proclaimed the name of the Lord.
So he came and stood with Moses. He proclaimed the name of the Lord. And once he got through, it was all written again. Skip down to verse 27. Verse 27. Because I'm just letting you know that God is the one that put forth these commandments, and he believed that, and he knew that you can keep them. Otherwise, he made you. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord said unto Moses, write thou these words, for after the tenor of these words I have made a covenant with thee and with Israel.
Now he's letting you know now, I'm going into the covenant with y'all. But after the tenor of these words, in other words, I'm going to give you what you want, but you got to do this what I want. So this is the contract. That's what a covenant is. And if you want to reap the proceeds of the contract, you have to keep it. But if you don't keep it, then you don't have nothing coming.
That's right.
He said, I want you to write down these words that I gave you. Because after the tenor of these words have I entered into a covenant with you. Go ahead and read.
And he was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights.
Another 40 days and 40 nights. Go ahead and read.
He did neither eat bread nor drink water. And he wrote upon the tables the words of the covenant.
And he wrote upon the tables the words of the covenant. What was that?
The 10 Commandments.
The 10 Commandments. So now, the 10 Commandments on what the covenant is established around. That's the covenant, sisters and brothers. The 10 Commandments. People talking about entering into the covenant, but you don't want to keep the commandments. Then what covenant are you talking about?
That's right.
10 Commandments. Now let's go into Deuteronomy, the 10th chapter. And we're going to see if the Lord's going to stray away from this. Deuteronomy chapter 10. And we're going to start reading at verse 1. Deuteronomy chapter 10. We're going to start reading at verse 1. Because that's why sometimes you just have to take your time and go through this word of God. Read this Bible. See what God wants for you. Wants you to do. What he requires. Then you won't waste your time on Sunday screaming and hollering and feeling good. And you ain't got nothing coming but the lake of fire.
Ooh.
You're happy, but you don't know why you're happy. Deuteronomy 10 and verse 1. Go ahead and read.
At that time the Lord said unto me, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first.
Because Moses telling them now what had happened in the past, okay? He said, now the Lord told me, I want you to cut out 2 more stones like the first. Go ahead and read.
And come up unto me into the mount,
Uh-huh.
and make thee an ark of wood.
Go ahead.
And I will write on the tables the words that were in the first tables, which thou breakest, and thou shalt put them in the ark.
Now I want you to make me a little old ark. That's something like a little chest. And I want you to put these tables there, because this ark represents me, and everywhere I come, I want my commandments to be there. Go ahead and read.
And I made an ark of shittim wood, hewed 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and went up into the mount, having the 2 tables in mine hand. And he wrote on the tables, according to the first writing, the 10 commandments, which the Lord spake unto you in the mount out of the midst of the fire in the day of assembly. And the Lord gave them unto me.
So he didn't tell me to write something different. He told me to write exactly what he gave you, the whole nation, in the day of assembly, when we was all assembled there at the foot of Mount Sinai. He spoke it to me. Then he wrote it, the same words. So he didn't say something to you and then write something different so he can get you cut off. He spoke it to you in the language that you speak, so you will understand. Go ahead and read.
And I turned myself and came down from the mount, and put the tables in the ark which I had made. And there they be, as the Lord commanded me.
He said, now I put them in the ark, and there they are right now. Skip down to verse 12. Verse 12 and go ahead.
And now, Israel, what does the Lord thy God require of thee? But to fear the Lord thy God, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul.
Now he's telling you what's required of him. People, well, I wonder what the Lord want me to do. He's finna tell you right now. He said, I want you to walk in the ways that I told you about. I want you to love me, serve the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul, and do what? Go ahead.
To keep the commandments of the Lord and his statutes, which I command thee this day for thy good.
He said, that's what I require of you. You don't have to be running around wondering what I want you to do. I have told you what I want you to do. This is all I require. You don't have to fall down and faint. You don't have to run and scream and holler and jump over chairs. All you got to do is obey.
That's right.
Skip down to verse 16 and read it.
Circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart, and be no more stiff-necked.
So the next time somebody tell you, we don't have to circumcise our foreskin no more. God, now, since Jesus, we have to circumcise the foreskin of our heart. You always had to do that in order to keep the commandment system, brother. He said, circumcise the foreskin of your mind. That's your heart. And be no more stiff-necked.
That's right.
So when somebody bring that foolishness to you, see, all you got to do is be circumcised in the flesh now since Christ came. They lying to you. It is Satan trying to take away your salvation. Lord is God. He don't change, sisters and brothers. He don't change at all. So he told you that. Now let's go into 1 John, the 2nd chapter. 1 John chapter 2. Because people are always telling you they know God. Well, there's a simple test that you can put them through, and you will know whether they know God or not. You don't have to, maybe they got a point there. You don't have to maybe when it comes to the word of God, because God is not a maybe God.
That's right.
He's an absolute God. You can tell exactly who is serving God and who is not. You can tell exactly who know God and who don't know God. See, we're giving too much room to sinners, sisters and brothers.
That's right.
In the name of being politically correct or in the name of getting along. I talk to a person all day long about football, basketball, and stuff of that nature, but when you get off into this Bible, partner, I ain't compromising with you for a minute.
That's right.
That's when the political correctness is taken off and put on the chair.
That's right.
1 John, 2nd chapter, and verse 1. This is the way you can know who serve God and who don't. Who know him and who don't. Verse 1, go ahead.
My little children, These things write I unto you, that ye sin not. And if any man sin, we have an advocate with the Father, Jesus Christ the righteous.
Now he said, I don't want you to sin. But if you should sin, you got a judge advocate sitting there for you. You got someone to plead your cause. Jesus Christ the righteous. You have a high priest. Go ahead and read.
And he is a propitiation for our sins, and not for ours only, but also for the sins of the whole world.
He is the appeasement for our sin. In other words, he is the one that offered himself for our sins. Not only you, Israel, but for the whole world. Go ahead and read.
And hereby we do know that we know him.
And hereby we do know that we know him. How is that? Go ahead.
If we keep his commandments.
Do I need to interpret that? If we keep his commandments. Go ahead and read.
He that saith I know him and keepeth not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him.
Wait a minute. You must have read something wrong there.
Let me read it again.
You sure? He that say he know him
and keepeth not his commandments
is a liar.
And the truth is not in him.
And the truth is not in it. It's all that simple. I don't care how many titles you have in theology. I don't care if your cross so big you have to have a wheelbarrow to roll it around. If you don't keep God's commandments, you are a liar. And the truth is not in you. God, you don't know God. What verse?
That was the end of 4.
Go ahead.
But whoso keepeth his word, in him verily is the love of God perfected. Hereby know we that we are in him.
Go ahead.
He that saith he abideth in him ought himself also so to walk, even as he walked.
Now, how you going to abide in the Lord and you walk in contrary? How you going to abide in the Lord and he said, my Sabbath day is the 7th day of the week, and you said that yours is the 1st day of the week? How you going to abide with him in it? You know, this is just plain reason, sisters and brothers. Right. We're not getting off into spookery. We're getting off into what the Lord said. Let us reason together. Go ahead and read.
Brethren, I write no new commandment unto you, but an old commandment, which you had from the beginning. The old commandment is the word which you have heard from the beginning.
He said, I didn't bring nothing new to you. I brought the same commandment, sisters and brothers. The same commandment. He said, so John said, don't sin. If you sin, you have an advocate. That's if you sin unintentionally.
That's right.
But the problem is, maybe people don't know what sin is. So let's go tell them. Let's go right on to 1 John, the 3rd chapter. You already here. The 3rd chapter. And this is a biblical definition of sin. You already in 1 John, the 2nd chapter. Flip one page and you're in the 3rd chapter of 1 John. And verse 4. This is the biblical definition of sin. People tell you, well, you know, sin is smoking and drinking. I'm going to go with the book. Read it.
Whosoever committed sin, transgresseth also the law.
Transgresseth also the law. Go ahead and read.
For sin is the transgression of the law.
For sin is the transgression. That means the breaking of the law. Now that's the biblical definition of sin. I can go out and drink. I get drunk. I might even get away with that. As long as I don't sneak up and try to put my hand on some woman that ain't supposed to be. Or put my hand in somebody's back pocket trying to take their money.
That's right.
Or ease up on them and tell a lie. So those are the things that's written in the commandments. Sin is the transgression of the law. And maybe people don't know what sin is. But let's go into Romans, the 7th chapter. Because if you get away from the law, sin is straight. See, that's why the world is messed up. Because the world don't understand nothing. Everything is okay. Everything is politically correct. Whatever you want to be, that's your thing. I said, that's right. But you tell it all to them. God said, I set before you life and death. Good and evil, choose life and live. You just have to watch that, sisters and brothers. And you can't be a part of things. I am not politically correct with anybody. I'm not going to hang out with a bunch of brothers committing adultery all the time. I'm not going to hang out with a bunch of people that's always lying and sowing discord. I ain't going to befriend, I'm not going to befriend a male or a female that like to lay with the same sex. God said, don't do that. You understand what I'm saying? Well, you know, they human too. Yeah. Now I'm going to get out the human's way and let them do human things. Because I am not going down the toilet with them. We read and showed you that anyone that do that and the ones that take pleasure in them, they going down the toilet too. You didn't know what sin is. And the only way that you know it's sin, Paul going to tell you right now. Romans the 7th chapter, and start reading at verse 7. Romans 7 and 7. Because now, sisters and brothers, sin has been so bad until we think it's okay. It's just like this president we had. This man is everything bad. Whatever you come up with. But they paint him with honor, and he's all right now. You know why? It's because people have been beat down so until they can't determine what's right and what's wrong no more. Don't let that happen to you. Verse 7, go ahead.
What shall we say then? Is the law sin?
Go ahead.
God forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law. For I had not known lust, except the law had said, thou shalt not covet.
Now, why did Paul have to cover this? Because people have gotten into Paul's writing. And when Paul is talking about the law of animal sacrifice, they done confuse this with the commandments. And people think nowadays that the law is sin. Apparently that mindset started in the days of Paul. From some of the stuff that he was teaching. Mm-hmm. So he had to come and tell you. What should I say? Is the law sin? God forbid. I had not known sin but by the law. I didn't know that I was lusting except the law said, thou shalt not covet. The law did that. Go ahead and read.
But sin, taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscences.
That's uncleanness. Go ahead.
For without the law, sin was dead.
Now, I did a whole lot of dirty stuff, sisters and brothers. Didn't feel guilty about none of it. Enjoyed it. I was a good sinner. I ain't gonna lie, enjoyed every millisecond of it. Until I started and ran into this book.
That's right.
And saw the consequences.
That's right.
That's when the fear set in. Fear before love. I learned to love God as my life, as my knowledge increased. But I feared him first, sister and brother. That's what gave me Paul. Because I saw that I was real dirty.
I hear you, brother.
Go ahead and read.
For I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived and I died.
How can he write this book and he's dead? In other words, he was a live sinner. You understand? But when he found out what sin is, he simply quit. That's when he died. That old Paul no longer existed. Go ahead and read.
And the commandment which was ordained to life, I found to be unto death. For sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me, and by it slew me.
Now, it's a sin taking occasion by the commandments. By the commandments. That's the only way. It deceived me and killed me. How did it take occasion by the commandment? Because when I read the commandment, he said, thou shalt not. And I stopped doing it. The old sinful boy is history.
There you go. Praise the Lord.
Because I died spiritually.
Right. Praise the Lord.
Go ahead and read.
Wherefore the law is holy.
The law is holy.
And the commandment holy.
And the commandment is holy.
And just and good.
And just and good. Now, how can you throw away something that's holy and just and good? And you're going to call yourself full of the Holy Ghost. And you have thrown away the holiest thing that God gave man.
That's right.
His commandment. Mm-hmm. And it's just because it's equal with everybody. Go ahead and read.
Was then that which is good made death unto me? God forbid.
Go ahead.
But sin, that it might appear sin, working death in me by that which is good, that sin by the commandment might become exceeding sinful.
Ain't that something? He said that didn't cause a physical death. It caused a change of mind. Because when the commandments was pointed out, I saw that I was exceeding sinful. I was a big sinner. Mm-hmm. I had to quit. I had to back away from it. This is the Lord's requirement for your part of the covenant. Your part of the agreement. Have to back away from it. What verse?
That was the end of 13.
Go ahead and read.
For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin.
That might be something for you to keep in mind, sister and brother. Law is spiritual, but we all are carnal. We all sold under sin. The first inclination we get when we see something that we don't understand is to behave incorrectly. First thoughts we have a lot of time are the wrong thoughts. Because we was born in sin, the book tells you. So the only way for you to stay close to the Lord is operate between your ears once you get that law in there. That's why the Lord said he's going to put the law here. Skip down to verse 21. Verse 21 and go ahead. Pay attention now. Go ahead and read.
I find then a law that when I would do good, evil is present with me.
And you have to remember that, sister and brother. Sometimes your intentions are ever so good. And you find and you end up doing the wrong thing. See, I done experienced all of this. The kind of situation where all my intentions was the right intention. But it all turned out wrong.
That's right.
For years I've grieved over it. But it turned out wrong. It's just that. Well, Brother Boo, I ain't telling nobody, not even my wife. You know why? Because that's between me and God. That's why sometimes you mean good. And then wrong come out of it. Go ahead and read.
For I delight in the law of God after the inward man. But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members.
He said, look, I find out when I would do good, there's another law in my members that bring me into captivity of sin. But by the way, I want to let you know what I did wasn't perverted. It was just the folly of a young man. I don't want you walking around. And every time I walk close to my wife, she got to do something. But it's telling you here, sisters and brothers, it's telling you here that when there's another law in your member, you was born with this, sister and brother. That when you get ready to do something right, it brings you into the captivity of sin. And all of us are guilty of it. Don't tell me that you never. No, if you're not guilty of this, then you never lived to be over 3 years old. Go ahead and read what verse?
Verse 24. O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death?
Why is that the body of this death? Because the Lord put before you good and evil, life and death. Choose life and live. But if you choose evil, you're going to die. That's why he said, oh, wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from this body of death? It's trying to kill me all the time. Always wanting everything it shouldn't have. Lusting after stuff you shouldn't have. Sometimes pursuing after stuff that you shouldn't have. Trying to kill you. So what did he say? Go ahead and read.
I thank God through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then with the mind, I myself serve the law of God. But with the flesh, the law of sin.
He said, so look, I thank God. But with the mind I serve. Why the mind instead of the flesh? The Lord, we're going to show you the laws. He's going to write his laws in your mind. You don't have to worry about what's written on the stones no more. You don't have to worry about what's written over your doorpost. You don't have to wear a garment with fringes on it. None of that work. I'm going to write it between his ears. So when I get ready to do something, that conscience that my law is written, that the Lord's law is written, says, thou shalt not.
That's right.
It's forever present with you. Once this get in your mind, it is going to stay there because everything else didn't work. That's why he said, with my mind I serve the Lord.
That's right.
But with my flesh I serve sin. Why? Because God tried all that stuff outside. He wrote on a stone. He spoke to you. You didn't do no good. Wrote on a stone. Didn't do no good. Moses broke it, wrote it again. Didn't do no good. Then he gave you fringes. Didn't do no good. So in order to keep from killing you with the fringes on, he had to come up with animal sacrifice for sin. Didn't do no good. So the Lord said, I got to do something different. Let's go into Jeremiah, the 31st chapter, and see what that is. Jeremiah chapter 31. See, people don't understand. You don't get people running around and misusing everything. Now you got people running around with the Star of David, which is the star of Rim. David ain't had no star. He didn't really have the Ark of the Covenant.
That's right. Then
you run around with fringes talking about this is your culture. That ain't your culture. It was added because of sin. And anything that's added because of sin, God going to terminate it. He's terminated two things already, animal sacrifice and the fringes. And at the end, and the last day, he's going to terminate the other thing that was added because of sin, death. Ignorance, sisters and brothers, ignorance is dangerous. I said it all the time. If I had known the rattlesnake was under the log, I wouldn't have picked it up and got bit. Knowledge. Jeremiah 31, go start reading that verse 31. Because nothing else worked. God is the one that was here with his sisters and brothers, and nothing else worked. So he had to come up with a solution that worked. It ain't working too good now, nowadays anyway, until you run back in it. But then some people come in it, they don't believe. 31 and 31. Go ahead and read.
Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
A new covenant? Go ahead. Why? Go ahead.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith the Lord.
He said, I done tried what I did for them when I brought them out of Egypt. That didn't work. They broke that covenant. Whatever I did didn't work. Animal sacrifice. Written in stone. He even told them to write it over your doorposts of your house. He even told you to get some fringes with garments with fringes on. It didn't work. They broke my covenant still. Go ahead.
But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel.
Go ahead.
After those days, saith the Lord,
I
will put my law in their inward part and write it in their heart.
I'm going to put my law in the inward part and write it in their heart. Go ahead and read.
And will be their God, and they shall be my people.
And that's the only way that he's going to be your God and you're going to be his people. Now let's go into Hebrews, the 8th chapter, and look at the same thing, because this is important to God. He wants you to understand this. Now, when we go and look at it, we're going going to see if he's going to come up with something new, sisters and brothers. Hebrews chapter 8, and we're going to start reading at verse 7. Hebrews 8 and 7. That's why I know that the difference in Hebrew Israelite Christianity and Roman Christianity is different than day and night. Because everything that the Lord gave his people in the new and old, the people that are Roman Christians are just the opposite. It's all that simple. Well, you know, we at different times, you know, and things have changed. Every time somebody asks me to say that to me, you know what I ask them? Do the women still have babies?
That's right.
Even with the women that want to be men, ask the question, do you still have a monthly? I bet you your last money, no matter what's in your mind, you lay with a man and he hit it on the head, you're going to get pregnant. So what's changed? Will somebody tell me, why is the change? God deal with absolute. What's changed? That's all I ask. Hebrews chapter 8, start reading at verse 7. 8 and 7. Okay, go ahead.
For that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. For finding fault with them, he said, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah.
So now, he found fault with us. We didn't keep it. No matter what he tried. So he said, now I'm going to make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. He didn't say I'm going to make it with the Gentiles and the Hamites.
No.
See, the call of God is about repentance, so people don't understand that. Israel, you're going to be my priest. If you ain't going to be my priest, I want you to look at Jonah. I told him to go and prophesy to Nineveh. He tried to run away. Almost sunk the boat with water, and the people threw him over. I had a fish to eat him, and then throw him up on the rock, and said again, Jonah, go preach to the Ninevites. And Jonah said, yeah. Israel, you are in the belly of the fish. He will not get him more priest. Once he get through almost digesting you and throw you up, go do my word. Yes, boss. God don't have to change. He chose us to be his priest, and we will be that. And he ain't going to give it to nobody else. So, finding fault with us, I'm going to make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Go ahead and read.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt.
Go ahead.
Because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord.
So you broke your end of the agreement. You broke the covenant. So I didn't regard you, just like you signed a lease. I'm going to let you stay in this apartment if you pay my rent every month. You're going to move in, then you don't pay rent no more. You done broke the covenant. You got to go, even with God. Well, you my brother or my sister. You broke the covenant.
That's right.
You got to go.
You got to go.
I didn't learn that from myself. I learned that from my God. Go ahead and read.
For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord.
Go ahead.
I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts. And I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people.
So this is the covenant I'm going to make with them now. The stones, you know, they can't remember. They weren't around when I spoke. And so the stones that I wrote on, they didn't work because they didn't read it.
That's right.
When I told them to write them over the doorpost, that didn't work. They didn't read them. Why I know? Because the brother was breaking my Sabbath day out there. And the people brought him to God and said, look, what can we do with this guy? Because we don't know what to do with him. He said, stone him. Stone him to death. So he said, now that I don't kill no more y'all, I want you to put on your garments fringes. So you look down at these fringes and remember not to break my law no more. So I don't have to stone you. Didn't work. These people ain't going to stone. I'm going to kill them all. I'll tell you what I got to do. I'm going to replace them with animals. Then start killing animals to keep from killing you, because you never stop breaking the covenant, which is a commandment. That didn't work. I got to come up with something else. I'm going to come in the flesh, and I'm going to teach them my covenant. I'm going to install it in their mind. So when I get ready to take something to this brother that don't belong to me, that law in my mind going to say, thou shalt not steal. Brother get angry, me and him get to fight, and I'm almost about to something, so thou shalt not kill. It's there. And once you get that in your mind, then ain't nobody else have to teach you no more. Because it is here. That's what he said, a new covenant. And the Lord did this. But really it wasn't new, was it? Mm-mm. He just come up with a new agreement, but with the same old law.
Thank you for tuning in to today's lesson. If you are in the Chicagoland area, we welcome you to join our church community every Saturday at 12 noon Central. We are located at 520 West 138th Street in Riverdale, Illinois. Our ministry is made possible by your donations. To make a donation or to view all of our locations across the world, please visit our website at www.theisraelofgod.com.